The courtroom at Providence Superior Court fell into absolute silence when Emma Richardson walked through the doors. 17 years old, wearing a simple gray sweater and jeans, she moved slowly, her eyes fixed on the floor. Her mother, Jennifer, a high school teacher, walked beside her with one arm around her daughter's shoulders. Emma's hands trembled as she gripped a folder of documents, evidence of a nightmare that had stolen her future. Across the aisle sat Dr. William Thornton, 62, Dean of Ashford Preparatory Academy, one of New England's most prestigious private schools with tuition at $75,000 per year. He wore a navy blazer with the Ashford crest embroidered in gold thread, gray slacks pressed to perfection, and a burgundy tie that cost $340. His Mont Blanc pen, worth $890, tapped rhythmically against his leather portfolio as if the proceedings were merely a tedious administrative meeting. Behind him sat 6 attorneys from Whitmore and Associates, specialists in protecting elite institutions from scandal. Their lead counsel, Richard Whitmore, commanded $2,100 per hour and had a reputation for destroying victims on the witness stand. But they were about to face Judge Frank Caprio. Before we dive into what happened in that courtroom, if you believe in justice and want to support a new channel dedicated to sharing these powerful stories, please hit that subscribe button and like this video. Every subscription helps us bring more of Judge Caprio's wisdom to light. Judge Caprio entered, and everyone rose. At 79, with 37 years on the bench, he'd seen institutional corruption before. But the case file before him, case Libertat 224 CV 9156, had made him physically ill when he'd read it the previous night. What he'd found represented everything wrong with systems that protect power over people. "This court is now in session," he said quietly. Case number 2024 CV 9156. Emma Richardson versus Ashford Preparatory Academy and Dr. William Thornton. Miss Richardson alleges wrongful expulsion, retaliation, and intentional infliction of emotional distress following her report of sexual assault. Richard Whitmore stood immediately. "Your Honor, Ashford Preparatory Academy has served this community for 147 years, educating future leaders, senators, CEOs, and Nobel laureates. My client, Dr. Thornton, has been dean for 23 years with an impeccable record. This lawsuit threatens not just individuals, but an institution that represents academic excellence. Ms. Richardson was expelled for legitimate disciplinary reasons after a documented pattern of disruptive behavior that created a toxic environment for other students. Her allegations of sexual assault were thoroughly investigated by the school and found to be inconsistent with the evidence. We believe this lawsuit is motivated by bitterness over her expulsion and an attempt to extract money from a prestigious institution." Judge Caprio's expression didn't change. "Mr. Whitmore, you're saying a 17-year-old girl invented a rape allegation out of bitterness?" "We're saying the evidence doesn't support her version of events, Your Honor. And her subsequent behavior, making public accusations, disturbing other students with emotional outbursts, left the school no choice but to remove her to protect the learning environment." "I see," Caprio said, his voice carefully controlled. "Ms. Richardson, tell me what happened." Emma stood slowly, her voice barely above a whisper. Her attorney, Maria Santos, stood beside her for support. "Your Honor, I was a junior at Ashford Preparatory Academy on a full academic scholarship. I had a 4.0 GPA. I was captain of the debate team. I'd been accepted into Harvard's summer program for high-achieving students. Ashford was my dream school since I was 12 years old." Her voice cracked. "On March 9th of this year, there was a party after the lacrosse championship. I didn't usually go to parties, but my friends convinced me. It was at the home of Tyler Ashford, Yes, Your Honor. His family founded the school and his last name is literally on the building. His father, Robert Ashford, has donated over $5 million to the school in the past 5 years. What happened at the party? Caprio asked gently. Emma's hands shook. I had 2 drinks. I'm not a drinker. I'd never had alcohol before that night. Tyler offered to show me his father's library. I thought it was safe. He's the star lacrosse player, student body president. Everyone loves him. She paused, wiping tears. He locked the door. He pushed me onto a couch. I said no. I said it multiple times. I tried to push him away, but he's 6'3" and 200 pounds. I'm 5'4" and weigh 115 pounds. He raped me, Your Honor. The courtroom was silent, except for muffled sobs from Emma's mother. When it was over, he told me that if I told anyone, nobody would believe me. He said his family owned the school and that I was there on charity. He said I should be grateful he was interested in someone like me. Little did anyone know what the school had done to cover it up. I went home. I showered for 2 hours. I couldn't stop shaking. The next day I told my mother. She took me to Rhode Island Hospital for a rape kit exam. The exam confirmed everything. Then we went to the police. And then, on March 11th, 2 days after the assault, my mother and I met with Dean Thornton to report what happened. How did Dean Thornton respond? Caprio asked. Emma's voice hardened slightly. He asked what I'd been wearing. He asked how much I'd had to drink. He asked if I'd been flirting with Tyler before the party. He asked if I understood that boys will be boys at parties and that maybe I'd misunderstood Tyler's intentions. He said Tyler was a gifted athlete with scholarship offers from 3 Division I schools. He said Tyler's father was a major benefactor who had done tremendous things for Ashford. He said that making accusations could ruin Tyler's future and harm the school's reputation. Did he say he would investigate? Caprio asked. He said he would look into it. That meeting lasted 12 minutes, Your Honor. 12 minutes to report the worst thing that ever happened to me. Dr. Thornton yawned visibly. Judge Caprio's eyes snapped to him. Dr. Thornton, am I boring you? Thornton straightened. Not at all, Your Honor. I'm simply exhausted from dealing with this situation for months. It's been quite taxing on the entire school community. Continue, Ms. Richardson, Caprio said, his voice cold. The next day, Tyler was back in school, acting like nothing happened, smiling at me in the hallways. His friends started rumors that I was lying for attention, that I'd wanted it and then regretted it. People called me a slut. They wrote it on my locker. They posted it on social media. And the school's investigation? On March 18th, 9 days after I reported, Dean Thornton called me and my mother back to his office. He said he'd completed his investigation and found no evidence of sexual assault. He said Tyler denied everything and that several witnesses said I'd been all over him at the party, which was a lie. He said the rape kit was inconclusive, which was also a lie. Her voice rose. Then he said that my accusations had created a toxic environment and were disruptive to the educational mission. He said that for the good of the school community, I was being expelled effective immediately. The courtroom erupted. Multiple people shouted in outrage. Emma's mother was crying openly. Judge Caprio banged his gavel 3 times. Order. Ms. Richardson, you were expelled for reporting a sexual assault. Yes, Your Honor. The official reason on my expulsion letter was conduct unbecoming of an Ashford student and creating a hostile environment through false accusations. I lost my scholarship. I lost my spot in Harvard's summer program. I lost my chance at college recommendations from my teachers. I lost everything. And Tyler Ashford? Emma's voice filled with bitterness. He graduated with honors 2 months later. He gave a speech at commencement about integrity and leadership. He's now at Duke University on a full athletic scholarship. His life wasn't affected at all. Dr. Thornton cleared his throat loudly. "Your Honor, if I may—" "You may not," Caprio said sharply. "Ms. Richardson isn't finished. What happened after your expulsion?" "I fell apart, Your Honor. I'd been raped, then expelled, then publicly branded a liar. I developed severe depression and PTSD. I couldn't leave the house for weeks. I had panic attacks. I had to be hospitalized for suicidal ideation in April." She pulled out a medical report. "I've been in intensive therapy 3 times a week since March. I take medication for anxiety and depression. I missed all my AP exams. I couldn't apply to colleges. My entire future, everything I'd worked for since I was 12, was destroyed. Not by the assault itself, Your Honor, though that was horrible, but by Dean Thornton choosing to protect my rapist and punish me for speaking up. If Judge Caprio's compassion moves you like it moves millions of others, show your support by subscribing to our channel. We're just starting out, and your subscription means everything." "Dr. Thornton," Caprio said, his voice like ice, "you're the dean. A student reports a rape. Your response was to expel her?" Thornton stood, his expression one of practiced patience with people who didn't understand elite education. "Your Honor, with all respect, Ashford Preparatory Academy cannot function when students make wild accusations that tear apart our community. We conducted a thorough investigation." 12 minutes is thorough? "We interviewed witnesses. We reviewed evidence. The facts simply didn't support Ms. Richardson's version of events. What we did find was a young woman who, after a regrettable consensual encounter, decided to make accusations that could destroy a talented young man's future." "Consensual?" Emma's voice broke. "I said no. I have bruises on my arms from where he held me down. The rape kit showed. The rape kit showed that sexual activity occurred." Thornton interrupted dismissively. "It didn't prove lack of consent. Tyler maintains it was consensual. Several witnesses said you were flirting with him. You'd been drinking. Perhaps you simply regretted your choices the next morning." The courtroom exploded again. Emma's mother lunged toward Thornton before bailiffs restrained her. Judge Caprio banged his gavel repeatedly. "Dr. Thornton," Caprio said when order returned, "you just blamed a 17-year-old rape victim for her assault in my courtroom." "I'm stating facts, Your Honor. We cannot destroy a young man's promising future based on one person's word, especially when that person had been drinking and voluntarily went to a private room with him. Tyler Ashford is a gifted athlete and scholar. He comes from a respected family. He has offers from top universities. We couldn't let unfounded accusations ruin all of that." "So you expelled the victim instead?" "We removed a student who was creating a hostile environment with baseless accusations, yes. That's our right and our responsibility as an educational institution." What the judge discovered next shocked everyone in the courtroom. "Your Honor," Maria Santos said, "I'd like to present evidence obtained through discovery. We have internal emails from Ashford Preparatory Academy that tell a very different story than what Dr. Thornton just described." She pulled out a thick folder. On March 10th, one day after Emma reported her assault, Robert Ashford, Tyler's father and major donor, sent an email to Dr. Thornton. "May I read it?" Caprio nodded, his expression grim. "Bill, my son tells me some scholarship girl is making ridiculous accusations. This needs to disappear. We've donated $5 million to Ashford. We built the new science wing. The family name is on 3 buildings. I expect you to handle this appropriately." Tyler has a bright future that won't be derailed by some girl looking for attention or a payout. Make this go away." The courtroom gasped. Dr. Thornton's face went red. Dr. Thornton's response, sent 14 minutes later: "Robert, understood completely. Tyler's future is safe. I'll conduct a brief investigation and conclude insufficient evidence. The girl will be removed from campus by end of month. The Ashford name and legacy are protected." Judge Caprio stood, his hands gripping the bench. "You received a rape report and immediately promised the rapist's father you'd protect him and expel the victim?" "That email is taken out of context," Thornton began. "What context makes that acceptable?" "Your Honor, Robert Ashford is one of our most important benefactors. Without his support, Ashford couldn't function. We have to consider the school's financial stability over a rape victim's life. It's not that simple. Tyler denied the accusations. We had to weigh his word against hers. And frankly, Tyler's family has been part of Ashford for 4 generations. They built this school. Emma Richardson had been there 18 months on scholarship. Who was more credible? So, credibility depends on how much money someone's family has donated?" Caprio's voice was shaking with rage. "There's more, Your Honor," Maria Santos said. "We have text messages between Dr. Thornton and the school's athletic director, sent 2 days after Emma's report." Dr. Thornton wrote, "Tyler's lacrosse season can't be disrupted. Duke scouts are watching. If we suspend him, we lose his family's donations and his athletic reputation. The girl is expendable. Expel her. Call it conduct violations. Move on." We also have emails showing that Dr. Thornton pressured the school counselor not to provide Emma with mental health support. He wrote, "Don't coddle her. She made her bed. Now she has to lie in it. Any sympathy from staff sends the wrong message." Emma was sobbing. Her mother held her, both of them shaking. "Furthermore," Maria continued, "we interviewed 12 current and former Ashford students. 4 female students reported similar experiences. They were sexually assaulted by male students from wealthy families, reported it to school administration, and were either expelled, pressured to withdraw, or told their accusations were false. All 4 perpetrators remained at Ashford and graduated with honors. All came from families who donated 6 figures or more annually. This isn't one bad decision, Your Honor. This is a pattern. Ashford Preparatory Academy has systematically protected wealthy male students who commit sexual assault while punishing and expelling their victims. They've created a culture where rape is acceptable if your family donates enough money." Dr. Thornton stood, his composure finally cracking. "This is absurd. We're an elite institution with standards." "Standards?" Caprio's voice cut like a blade. "Your standard is that rape is acceptable if the rapist's father pays enough money? That victims should be expelled to protect donors? That a 17-year-old girl's future is expendable compared to a rapist's lacrosse season? Your Honor, you don't understand how elite schools operate. Then explain it to me. Explain how an institution that claims to educate future leaders teaches boys that they can rape without consequences, as long as their families are rich. Explain how you call yourselves educators while destroying a victim to protect a predator." Thornton's face was purple with rage. "Tyler Ashford is a talented young man with a bright future. Emma Richardson is a scholarship student from a working-class background with no connections. In the real world, Your Honor, those things matter. We couldn't sacrifice Tyler's future and his family's relationship with Ashford for one girl's accusations." The courtroom fell silent. Even Thornton's attorneys looked horrified at what he'd just said. "You just said it out loud," Caprio said quietly. You just admitted that you value wealthy students over scholarship students, that you expelled a rape victim to protect a rapist because his family has money. Thornton realized his mistake too late. I didn't mean... You meant exactly what you said. You've been thinking it this entire time. You just finally said the quiet part out loud. Caprio shuffled through documents, his expression growing darker with each page. I also have the rape kit report from Rhode Island Hospital. Dr. Michelle Chen, the examining physician, found extensive bruising on Emma's arms, thighs, and neck, consistent with forcible restraint. She found vaginal tearing consistent with forcible penetration. She documented Emma's psychological state as severely traumatized, dissociative, consistent with acute sexual assault. He looked at Thornton. You said the rape kit was inconclusive. It wasn't inconclusive. You lied. I simplified the findings. You lied to justify expelling a rape victim, and I have the police report. Detective Sarah Martinez investigated this case. Detective Martinez, you're present in the courtroom. Please approach. A woman in her 40s, wearing a police uniform, walked to the witness stand. Detective Martinez, what did your investigation reveal? Your Honor, we interviewed Tyler Ashford 2 days after Emma's report. His story changed 3 times during the interview. First, he claimed he didn't remember Emma being at the party. Then he said they'd talked, but nothing happened. Finally, when confronted with the rape kit evidence, he admitted to sexual contact, but claimed it was consensual. We interviewed witnesses at the party. 3 students confirmed they saw Tyler lead Emma to a private room. 2 heard her saying no and stop from behind the closed door. One witness, Jessica Morgan, told us she tried to open the door to check on Emma, but it was locked. She heard crying. We had probable cause to arrest Tyler Ashford for rape. But when we contacted Ashford Preparatory Academy to coordinate, Dr. Thornton called the police chief directly. They're members of the same country club, and requested we delay any action until the school completed its investigation. And what happened? The police chief agreed. We were told to wait. Then, 2 weeks later, Dr. Thornton provided a letter stating that the school's investigation found no evidence of assault, and that Emma had been expelled for making false accusations. The police chief, under pressure from Ashford's Board of Trustees, which includes 2 city council members and a state senator, declined to pursue charges. So the school interfered with a criminal investigation? Yes, Your Honor. Dr. Thornton used his connections to protect Tyler Ashford from criminal prosecution. Judge Caprio turned back to Thornton, his face pale with fury. You didn't just expel a rape victim. You obstructed a police investigation to protect a rapist. I was protecting the school's interests. You were protecting a predator. You used your position and influence to ensure a rapist faced no consequences while his victim lost everything. There's more, Your Honor, Maria Santos said. We also have testimony from Dr. Linda Foster, the school counselor at Ashford. She's here today. Dr. Foster? A woman in her 50s stood, visibly nervous. Dr. Foster, you counseled Emma Richardson after her assault? Briefly, yes. Emma came to me 3 days after reporting to Dean Thornton. She was clearly traumatized. Panic attacks, crying, couldn't concentrate in class. I recognized the signs of acute PTSD from sexual assault. What did you do? I wanted to provide ongoing counseling and recommend a trauma specialist. But Dean Thornton called me into his office that same day. He told me to stop seeing Emma. He said that providing counseling would imply the school believed her accusations, which would be problematic given the Ashford family's importance to the school. He told me that if I continued to help Emma, my contract wouldn't be renewed. I have 3 children and a mortgage. Her voice broke. I'm ashamed to say I complied. I abandoned a student who desperately needed help because I was afraid of losing my job. Emma was staring at Dr. Foster, tears streaming down her face. The counselor she'd trusted had been silenced by threats. Dr. Foster, Caprio said gently, thank you for your honesty. I know that wasn't easy. He turned to Thornton. So, you not only expelled Emma for reporting her rape, you also ensured she couldn't access mental health support while still at the school. We couldn't appear to validate false accusations. They weren't false. You have a rape kit, witness statements, police evidence, and your own counselor confirming trauma. You know she was raped. You just don't care because her rapist's family donates money. Thornton said nothing, his jaw clenched. I also have Tyler Ashford's disciplinary record from Ashford, Maria Santos said. Interestingly, there are 5 prior complaints against him from female students. 3 reported unwanted sexual contact. 2 reported him pressuring them for sexual activity after they'd been drinking. All 5 complaints were dismissed by Dean Thornton as misunderstandings or teenage drama. All 5 girls who complained either transferred schools or were pressured to withdraw. Tyler faced no consequences for any incident. You knew he was a serial predator, Caprio said. You knew he'd assaulted multiple girls, and you protected him every time because his family has money. Your Honor, teenage social dynamics are complicated. Rape isn't a social dynamic, it's a crime, and you enabled it. You created an environment where boys from wealthy families learned they could assault girls without consequences. Caprio stood, papers shaking in his hands. In my 37 years on this bench, I've seen institutional corruption. I've seen power protecting power. But rarely have I seen an educator, someone entrusted with children's safety, so completely betray that trust. Here is my ruling. The courtroom held its breath. Emma Richardson's expulsion from Ashford Preparatory Academy is declared unlawful and is hereby reversed. Ms. Richardson is entitled to full reinstatement with all honors and scholarship benefits restored. Emma gasped, grabbing her mother's hand. However, Caprio continued, I understand Ms. Richardson has no wish to return to an institution that traumatized her. Therefore, Ashford Preparatory Academy is ordered to provide Ms. Richardson with a full 4-year scholarship to any accredited university of her choice, including all tuition, room, board, and expenses. This scholarship is guaranteed regardless of where she chooses to attend. Furthermore, Ashford is ordered to pay Ms. Richardson $4 million in compensatory damages. This covers her medical expenses, therapy costs, loss of educational opportunities, and severe emotional distress caused by the school's actions. Dr. Thornton stood. $4 million will bankrupt the school. Then perhaps you should have considered that before you chose donor money over a student's safety. Sit down. Caprio wasn't finished. Dr. William Thornton, you are removed from your position as Dean of Ashford Preparatory Academy, effective immediately. You are barred from holding any position in educational administration in the state of Rhode Island. You can't do that. I've dedicated 23 years. You dedicated 23 years to protecting rapists and punishing victims. Your career in education is over. Additionally, I am referring this case to the Rhode Island Attorney General for criminal investigation. Your obstruction of the police investigation, your retaliation against a crime victim, and your pattern of covering up sexual assaults may constitute criminal conduct. That's for the AG to determine. He leaned forward. I'm also ordering a full independent investigation of Ashford Preparatory Academy's handling of sexual assault complaints for the past 10 years. Every complaint, every expulsion, every withdrawal of female students will be examined. Any evidence of systematic cover-ups will result in additional sanctions, potentially including revocation of the school's accreditation. The courtroom erupted in applause. Emma was sobbing with relief, her mother holding her. Dr. Foster was crying. Even some of Thornton's attorneys looked relieved that justice was finally being served. Furthermore, Caprio continued, Ashford Preparatory Academy is ordered to implement comprehensive reforms within 90 days. These include mandatory sexual assault training for all staff and students, an independent Title IX coordinator not employed by the school, a confidential reporting system that bypasses school administration, and a victims advocate program. The school must also establish a $2 million fund for mental health services available to any student or alumna who experience sexual assault while enrolled at Ashford. This fund will be administered by an independent nonprofit, not by school officials. Finally, Ashford must issue a public apology to Emma Richardson, acknowledging that she was sexually assaulted, that the school failed her, and that her expulsion was unjust. This apology will be published in the Providence Journal, posted on the school's website, and sent to every student, parent, and alumna. Judge Caprio's voice grew harder. Dr. Thornton, you stood in this courtroom and said Emma Richardson was expendable compared to Tyler Ashford's future. You said that in the real world, wealth and connections matter more than truth and justice. You said you couldn't sacrifice the Ashford family's relationship with the school for one girl's accusations. Let me tell you about the real world. In the real world, a 17-year-old girl was raped and then punished for reporting it. In the real world, she lost her scholarship, her future, her mental health, and nearly her life because you valued donor money over her humanity. In the real world, you taught an entire school that rape is acceptable if your family is rich enough. You taught young men that they can assault women without consequences. You taught young women that reporting assault will destroy their lives while their rapists thrive. You didn't just fail Emma Richardson. You failed every student at Ashford. You failed your duty as an educator. You failed as a human being. His voice rose. You talk about protecting the school's reputation, but you destroyed its reputation. Ashford Preparatory Academy will forever be known as the school that expelled rape victims to protect wealthy predators. That's your legacy, Dr. Thornton. That's what your 23 years of leadership accomplished. Money can buy buildings. It can buy science wings with your donors' names on them. It can buy $340 ties and $890 pens. But it cannot buy integrity. It cannot buy decency. And it cannot buy your way out of the consequences when you sacrifice a child's safety for a donation. Emma Richardson was a gifted student with a 4.0 GPA who dreamed of attending Harvard. She was captain of the debate team. She was everything educators claim to value: hardworking, brilliant, driven. And you threw her away like garbage because her rapist's father wrote bigger checks. Justice cannot have two standards, one for wealthy students and one for scholarship students. The courtroom is the great equalizer, Dr. Thornton. In here, Tyler Ashford's $5 million doesn't matter. Your country club connections don't matter. The only thing that matters is truth, and the truth is that you enabled a rapist and destroyed his victim. The courtroom was completely silent, except for Emma's quiet crying. Sometimes, the hardest lessons are the ones we need most, Caprio said, his voice softening slightly. Emma Richardson learned that reporting rape can destroy your life. That took her 18 months to learn. Today, you learned that betraying your duty as an educator has consequences. I hope that lesson sticks. He looked at Emma. Ms. Richardson, I cannot give you back what was taken from you. I cannot undo the trauma you experienced. I cannot erase the months of suffering. But I can tell you that today, justice sees you. Justice believes you. Justice stands with you. You are not expendable. You are not less important than a wealthy donor's son. You are a brilliant young woman who deserves every opportunity you worked so hard to earn. And today, those opportunities are restored. Emma stood, wiping her eyes. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you for listening. Thank you for believing me when my school wouldn't. The courtroom erupted in sustained applause. Multiple people were standing, crying, cheering. Dr. Thornton sat motionless, his career destroyed, his legacy in ruins. If this story touched your heart, if you believe judges like Frank Caprio represent the best of our justice system, please support our new channel by subscribing and liking this video. Share it with someone who needs to hear that justice and compassion can coexist. Comment below with your city. Let's build a community that believes in fairness for all. The verdict sent shockwaves through elite private schools across New England. Within 6 months, 3 other prep school deans resigned amid similar allegations. The Attorney General's investigation of Ashford uncovered 14 additional cases of sexual assault cover-ups spanning 8 years. 7 former students came forward with their stories. Dr. William Thornton was charged with obstruction of justice and witness tampering. He pleaded guilty to reduced charges and served 14 months in prison. His law license was suspended, and he was barred from working in education permanently. Tyler Ashford's scholarship to Duke was revoked after the university reviewed the case. He was also charged with rape based on Detective Martinez's original investigation. He pleaded guilty to sexual assault and served 3 years in prison. He is now a registered sex offender. Robert Ashford pulled his donations from Ashford Preparatory Academy in retaliation. The school survived financially through the Victim Fund settlement and increased tuition. 3 board members resigned. The school hired its first female headmaster, Dr. Rebecca Chang, who implemented comprehensive reforms that became a model for other institutions. Emma Richardson received the 4-year scholarship. She attended Brown University, where she majored in psychology and women's studies. The $4 million settlement paid for her therapy, her education, and allowed her to establish the Richardson Foundation, a nonprofit providing legal support and counseling to sexual assault survivors at private schools. She graduated with honors. She's now 21, working as an advocate for assault survivors and speaking at schools about consent, reporting, and institutional accountability. She still struggles with PTSD, but she's healing. Last month, she gave a speech at a conference on Title IX enforcement. I was raped when I was 17, she said. But what broke me wasn't the assault itself. It was my school choosing to protect my rapist and destroy me to preserve their reputation and donor relationships. Judge Caprio gave me more than a verdict. He gave me validation. He looked at a powerful institution and a scared teenager, and he chose to believe the teenager. He reminded me that I wasn't expendable, that my life had value, that justice could still exist. She keeps the court judgment framed in her office, not as revenge, but as proof. Proof that sometimes the powerful lose. Proof that money doesn't always win. Proof that telling the truth, even when it costs everything, can still matter. Judge Caprio, when asked about the harsh penalties against Ashford, said simply, "Compassion isn't an exception to justice. It's the purpose. But compassion for victims requires accountability for those who harm them." Dr. Thornton taught students that wealth matters more than humanity. I taught him that he was wrong. Emma Richardson still has nightmares sometimes, still sees Tyler Ashford's face, still remembers standing in Dean Thornton's office, 17 years old and terrified, watching him choose money over her. But she also remembers standing in Judge Caprio's courtroom, hearing him say she wasn't expendable, hearing him say her life mattered, hearing him say justice saw her. And that memory, that moment when the system finally protected her instead of her rapist. That's what lets her keep fighting, keep speaking, keep helping other girls who are where she was. Because Emma Richardson learned something that day in court. She learned that even when institutions fail you, even when the people who should protect you betray you, even when power and money seem unstoppable, sometimes justice still wins. Not because the victim is powerful, but because she's right. And in Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom, that was enough. The courtroom really is the great equalizer. Elite prep schools with $75,000 tuition and century-old legacies stand equal with 17-year-old scholarship students. Deans with country club connections stand equal with rape victims. Money and power and privilege mean nothing when truth enters the room. Dr. Thornton thought Emma Richardson was expendable. He thought protecting Tyler Ashford's lacrosse career mattered more than her humanity. He thought donor relationships were more important than a student's safety. He was wrong. And Emma Richardson, survivor, advocate, fighter, stands as living proof that sometimes the girl they tried to silence gets to tell her story. Sometimes the victim they tried to erase becomes impossible to ignore. Sometimes the teenager they called expendable changes the entire system. Not because she was stronger than her trauma, but because she was brave enough to demand justice and lucky enough to find a judge who believed that every student, regardless of how much money her family donated, deserves to be protected, not punished, when she reports a crime. That's justice. That's what it looks like when the system works the way it should. And that's why Emma Richardson, despite everything she endured, still believes in speaking up. Because she knows now that sometimes, not always, but sometimes, the truth wins.